A couple of years ago, I saw a video on YouTube from a former highly trained neurosurgeon, an MIT highly trained neurosurgeon. And this surgeon had decided to leave his field. He declared that the field was literally eating him alive for two reasons. One, he said because of the medical companies he worked for, the only concern was really financial reimbursement, and we all know that as practitioners. I mean, who doesn't know today that the primary driving force of healthcare today is largely money? But there was another reason he left the field because of all this training that he had from MIT and beyond. To be this very proficient neurosurgeon, he believed that he was wasting his time mostly in his craft. He believed that most of his patients couldn't be resolved, largely because of poor lifestyle. And again, it was eating him alive enough to where he finally just departed from the field altogether. Well, I can tell you, as a physical therapist who's been practicing for 25 years and now is largely retired outside of occasional contract work, that this doctor was 100% on point. He's absolutely right. Because it's the same in our field. The physical therapy profession has become a disaster. That's right, it's a disaster. Now, I'm not expecting this to be a huge channel. It's not the type of content that's going to get hundreds of thousands of subscribers. But really, the purpose of this channel is one, to call out this profession, and two, to help new graduates possibly make it better by not following in our footsteps of my generation that made it so bad. And I get it, I'm a rough guy, I'm ex-enlisted in the military, long-time combative arts practitioner. I'm not going to be winning the Miss Congeniality portion of the contest anytime soon. But the fact is, this profession is wholly unethical, and most of you know that. It's not all of you, but it's definitely most of you. And I'm waiting for the day when the insurance companies come down and crush you for reimbursement, which is already starting to happen here and there. Because the fact is, you haven't been operating properly in the entire time that I've been in the field for 25 years. Now, there's two main reasons why this field is such a disaster. Well, first, most of you are seeing multiple patients at a time, especially in the outpatient setting. But the fact is, this is garbage therapy. You know it's garbage therapy. It's a waste of the time for the patient, it's a waste of the time for yourself. You are not developing any skills whatsoever if you operate in this fashion. It doesn't matter whether you get your OCS, COMT, FAA, OMPT. If you are not practicing skills that you learned every day one-on-one, you are not developing any skills, period. That's it. What you are doing is just running patients through a mill, doing the same exercises for the same diagnosis, for the same types of patients every day of your career. And you weren't just doing it in outpatient, they were doing it in the skilled nursing settings way back when I practiced in that arena as well. You're wholly not an ethical profession. Not all of you, but most of you. I mean, I equate this to someone who graduates from auto mechanic school, never actually works on cars for 5 to 10 years. Basically sits in the office most of the time, but then says he is a master mechanic. He's not going to be proficient at fixing cars, and most of you are not proficient physical therapists. Because you keep seeing multiple patients at a time throughout your entire career. You can be mad about that statement, it is what it is. And it gets proven to me repeatedly. A couple years ago, I was at the final advanced Maitland courses, and the participants in the classroom didn't even have a grasp on what they were teaching in level 1 and level 2. So I kind of asked around how many patients you're seeing. This was in the East Coast area, and the answers were 18, 20, sometimes 25 and 30. How do you think you're practicing any skills that you learn in continuing ed if you're seeing this many patients? The answer is you're not. Period. That's it. But most of you can't come to grips with this because this profession largely lives in delusion. Because you don't have enough time in the course of the day to practice anything except running these patients through the mills. Anybody can get good enough to make it through a certification after a prep course. And you're going to lose that all if you continue to operate in the way you do, which most of you do. How many patients did I have when I transferred to home health after years in skilled nursing that had come from these terribly run skilled nursing facilities where the therapists were dovetailing everybody, in other words, seeing multiple patients at a time? I would have a CVA that discharged out of a skilled nursing facility who was discharged at a plateau as unable to stand more than 30 seconds, then suddenly they would start walking, maybe not walking well, but beginning to take steps when they worked with me. The reason? Because I was the first person who was actually working one-on-one with them. And it wasn't just one or two cases here. This was rampant in California. It was everybody. I lost contracts over and over again because I wouldn't dovetail. And you know what? I was usually the only one. So that'd be my first contention why I'm leveling this profession. But the second contention is the type of patient that you repeatedly see, and that's the continuous chronic pain patient. Now, when I say chronic pain, I'm not talking about the definition as we learned in PT school. I'm talking about that continuous chronic pain patient, the one you'll call a frequent flyer, the one that can't be resolved. You know you can't resolve them, but yet you keep taking them back and back over and over again. Sometimes even after just a few weeks since your last discharge, because you don't have the guts to tell the doctors no that the order isn't appropriate. You take the patient again with this continuous chronic pain as if what you do this time is going to somehow be different than what you did last time. Oh yes, you're going to tell me about the functional scales. You're going to tell me how they had a better number at discharge than they did at evaluation. But what they won't tell the insurance companies is none of these scales matter if the patient keeps coming back with the same diagnosis or similar one over and over again. It is absolutely ridiculous and absurd how the physical therapy profession is operating, but the big picture is we are wasting billions of dollars to accomplish nothing. And this is the rebuttal of every single physical therapist that I bring this point up with. They say, well, my patients get better. No, they don't. Again, they discharge with a better functional scale temporarily. Because when one of those patients land on my list and I go back and review the chart, you can see that they don't get better. One day they have 2 out of 10 pain. Next day they have 5 out of 10 pain. Today I was walking my dog and he pulled the leash a little hard, so it's 8 out of 10 pain. Then it's back to 4 out of 10 pain. But the bottom line is every day they have fluctuating patterns of pain, and it's usually attributed to poor lifestyle. And this self-serving profession is so dense and so obtuse and so ridiculous that they can't come to grips and just say that out loud. That you can't solve the chronic pain patient. The same reason this neurological surgeon left his field. Now, when I started the idea to put a video out on YouTube, I figured I'd just put out a few videos, get it out of my system. But as I was thinking about it, I actually came up with about 40 or 50 topics because that's how bad our profession has become. So what do I hope to accomplish with this? Well, one, I hope patients may come across my videos so when they're in your clinics and they see that you're working with them and several other patients at the same time, that they realize that you're a charlatan therapist, because that's what you are. I want them to go to one of the few better clinics where they're actually going to get one-on-one treatment with a licensed physical therapist. And two, I want prospective students to know what they're getting into. First of all, because thanks to the APTA's awesome idea over 20 years ago of turning this into a doctorate, you're going to get about $150,000 in debt, and if you only make the monthly minimum payment with the interest, that's going to be about $250K. And I'll have a whole video on the ruse of this doctorate program at another time. But secondly, I want you to understand that a lot of you are going to be miserable in your career with this $150,000 debt with no way out. You have these companies that are scheduling all these patients, and all these patients have a note, either a daily note, a progress note, or evaluation and discharge, and these notes take time, and notes aren't reimbursable. And these companies are so greedy that they won't even give you the time to do the notes because it's not reimbursable. So a lot of these physical therapists are spending their off time doing this paperwork because they keep getting scheduled too many patients. They are wailing on the forums and YouTubes about this. Therapists with only a few years in practice are leaving the field, debt or not. So be advised before you apply to physical therapy school. And another reason I'm making these videos is that I hope this comes across the desk of maybe a CEO of a major insurance company. I want them to all get together and realize what's going on with this repeated treatment of these continuous chronic pain patients that can't be resolved, and I want them to crush you. Because this nonsense shouldn't have been allowed to begin with. Because if they actually severely reduce the amount of money that they're dishing out for this continuous chronic pain patient, then half your clinics would probably close, and you know what? You deserve it. You deserve it for operating unethically in this entire time that I've been a practitioner. And the final reason I'm making the videos is I just want to get it out of my system. I want to have my rant. I want you to look at yourself in the mirror, you corrupt therapist, and realize that you're not doing things the right way and hopefully change. But knowing what I know about the profession that I've been in for so long, I know most of you aren't going to. It's too painful for you to look into the mirror now and realize that you've been this corrupt therapist your entire career. But more importantly, I'm hoping that maybe new graduates see this video and realize the right way to practice physical therapy versus what we've been doing. Because I tell you what, my generation blew it. I don't think my generation is salvageable, and it's going to be up to you to make our profession honorable again. But the only way we're going to bring my profession back to a state of honor is if the next generation undoes all the damage that my generation did. Physical therapists out there, you need to change the way you're doing things.